I figured out my step-siblings, they were full of baloney. I'm talking about straight-up lies. So I got something taken away from them they wanted dearly. Their inheritance. Kiss it goodbye. Growing up, every boy desires to have a best friend in the form of a brother whom he can share anything with. When I was young, I often asked my father why I was an only child. Why my mother had died during childbirth and why my father had not remarried. I had so many questions. I remember my father ruffling my hair with a sad smile. Only when I was a teenager did I learn that my father had lost his love not once, but twice. His first love have been Jennifer, his high school sweetheart, and they've broken up when my father was in college. I don't know the details. I only know that they've been, planning to get married when Jennifer left. Later, my father met my mother and fell in love with her, only to lose her when I was born. I guess the knowledge was the reason I was elated when Jennifer reappeared in my father's life once more, and with a son of her own who she claimed was Arthur's. Suddenly, I had an older brother and a mother who seemed to genuinely love me. I was happy, and this was why it took me a while to notice that my brother was not the good guy he appeared to be. He was a different person at school and entirely different from his close-knit friends. In front of my father, he was a dutiful son. My father loved him a lot, sometimes I think even more than me, and it's because he had not been with Alex when he was young. I don't know what Jennifer went through or what her story was, but she just appeared to be sad whenever my father showed affection to Alex. Time passed, and my wish had a best friend in the form of an older brother vanished. I did not get along with Alex, nor did I try to. When Alex turned 18, he moved out to live with a bunch of his friends and gave up the idea of going to college. He started doing odd jobs, and my father allowed him to because he had enough inheritance for Alex to get settled later on. Leaving Alex to his own devices, I focused on my future. I graduated college and went to the state's best university. Soon, I graduated with remarkable results and got hired by one of the emerging IT companies as a programmer. My workplace is closer to my parents' house, and every weekend I drop by to check up on them, just to spend some time with them. During a couple of my visits, I noticed Alex lingering around, and despite myself, I confronted him. At first, he was rude towards me and told me to mind my own. It was my father who told me that Alex was facing a few issues at work and was simply taking a break. It came off as suspicious to me because Alex's longtime girlfriend, Monica, was also with him and living at my parents' house. Well, no matter how I looked at it, something seemed off. At first, I ignored it. To my father's advice, I let the couple be and focused on building my own career. Well, when I got to meet Kylie, she took every part of my waking hours because I fell for her, and I fell for her hard. I took her to introduce her to my parents, and that's when Alex started acting weird. By then, he'd been living at my parents' place for more than 6 months and still showed no signs of moving out, despite even having a well-paying job, or so he claimed. At, the dinner table, Alex and Monica made fun of Kylie and her job as a makeup artist. Alex went as far as to add that she was lucky that I earned enough for the two of them. Otherwise, Kylie's income wasn't enough. When he mentioned how I was going to be a loaded guy in the near future, when my father would transfer my part of the inheritance, that's when I became angry. I told Alex right there at the dinner table that he should be focusing on his life rather than mine. What I earned were my passion and hard work. If he failed to be a success, it wasn't my fault. The fight escalated, and it came down to delivering a punch or two. That's when my father intervened and reminded us that he was the owner of the property, and we were fighting over it. At the dinner next week, Alex did it again. He told me once again that I was lucky to be the son of a man who was, considerably wealthy, and I am going to get a considerable amount of inheritance as well as a luxurious job. I don't know. His words just seemed to make me mad, and they seemed off to me. And that's when I decided to dig for information on my brother and find out what he's been up to. Even though Kylie tried to talk me out of it, I was too angry to ignore. While I was digging around, my father called me for the weekend because he had something to announce. I could not ignore the sense of foreboding, and I knew deep down that it was something to do with Alex and my father's inheritance. Still, I went. Turned out Alex was fired from his recent workplace, whichever that had been, and was now asking my father for help. Jennifer told my father that was good was his inheritance if it won't be able to help his sons. I was surprised and confused when my father announced that he decided to divide his inheritance as 70-30, with Alex inheriting the larger part of it as I was already earning well enough. I felt betrayed, I felt robbed. When I mentioned as such, Jennifer became angry. Jennifer mentioned how she'd struggled to raise me as her own son, and now that her blood was in trouble, I was being conceited. I told her that she was reading it wrong, but she gave me no room to even argue, and in the end, my father told me to leave because he'd already decided everything. Now, my father's looking for a potential buyer to sell his land to, and I have to act before I lose everything. 3 days ago, I managed to gather a lot of information on my brother via a private detective. I'm perplexed at what I've learned, and I feel it's my duty to protect my father's inheritance before it goes into the wrong hands. Alex is in deep debt. He owes many people a lot of money, and I have no idea why, and this isn't all. He lied about working at a local company as a marketing manager and about his steady income. I believe all of this is because he's been seeking to secure a bigger portion of my father's inheritance, as 50% won't be enough for somebody like him. I've also discovered that he'd been planning to marry Monica before some loan sharks came up to him and caught him up, and he had no choice but to stop his wedding planning. Now, Monica is in cahoots with him, and both of them are planning to throw a grand wedding when they'll get Alex's share of the inheritance. Or it appears to be. I don't know how deep their lies go, but I believe the time's come to confront my brother about it. That's where I'm at now. On my way to confront Alex about everything I've discovered about him. Still, a part of me wonders if I'm doing the right thing. People will talk, and Jennifer will be heartbroken, but this is something I can't ignore. I can't let my father be fooled by someone who's broken countless hearts and destroyed many bonds of trust over the years. Update number 1. Hey guys, I'll be honest. The number of comments encouraging me to demand Alex for answers before sharing everything I've discovered with my father gave me the confidence to face my brother. After greeting my parents, I asked Alex to accompany for a walk. Alex suspected me at once because he knew that I never talked to him alone about anything. When he asked what it was about, I showed him the documents I had on him. At first he was surprised, and then he was furious. I believed he might have punched me too had we not been walking around the town park where everyone knew us. Turns out the information about Alex being in debt is true. Every month the interest rate increases and makes it nearly impossible for him to pay back what he earns. I told him that instead of lying to his father, he should come clean and tell him about his debts and his desire to give Monica the kind of wedding she deserves. But Alex has told me to stay out of it. After the way he reacted, I couldn't stop. I contacted the private detective again and decided to track his transactions. The results came within 2 days, which rattled me to the core, and Alex has received a huge amount of money from my father, and he's further transacted it to 2 accounts. Having this information in my hand, I contacted my father and inquired about the money. My father told me that Alex has borrowed it as a loan, and has requested that my father deducts it when dividing his properties. I was shocked at Alex playing a sly game, and at my father, who's just blindly trusting his firstborn. I couldn't help but just shout at my father about how he was being played at Alex's hands and how he was simply robbing me of my right. Before my father could answer, Jennifer snatched the phone and told me it was below me to attack my own brother who earned less. She shouted that even with 30%, I was going to be fine. I tried to argue and tell Jennifer that Alex's activities were beyond suspicious. She told me that was disappointment in me and the hatred that I carried in my heart. Her words hurt me more than I thought they would. It's clear that Jennifer is also supporting Alex and has my father wrapped around her finger. My father's done everything for them, even more than he did for me. And is this how they're going to repay him? So, dear audience, I ask you this. Should I go ahead and unveil the truth in front of my father's eyes? I know how it'll end, though. My father hurt and angry and will disinherit Alex and probably just distance himself from Jennifer as well. I don't want to hurt him like that, but I can't let him be deceived either. What can be the most plausible solution to this? Please drop a comment down below. Update Number 2. Hey guys, I've been following all the comments on my post closely, and it was per the majority suggestion. I hired 2 more private detectives to gather more information on Alex and Monica. It appears what I had on him earlier was nothing. There's a lot more to him than I'd ever thought, and the time has come to tell my father everything about Alex Steele, or Alex Nielsen. Alex isn't my brother. Not even a stepbrother, so before Jennifer met my father, she fell into the wrong crowd, giving birth to Alex a year after separating. Of course, she could have mistaken that Alex was my father because she loved him so much, and still does. But it turns out Alex had always known that his father wasn't Alex, but Reed. I'm not sure about the depth of the secret mother and son are hiding, but one thing is certain. My father doesn't know about Alex's parentage. According to this information, Alex is not entitled to inherit my father's inheritance. Not even 30% of it, let alone 70% that my father's planning to give him. Kylie tells me that I should ask Jennifer about the details. Just do it before going to my father. My dad's loved Jennifer fiercely, and her son as well, so his reaction to this mess is unpredictable. Jennifer, on the other hand, she's changed. Or maybe she'd always been like this and I just never knew. She wants her son to have all the money that he has no right to. Well, why? On the other hand, Monica is also a suspicious woman. Maybe it's because she works as a journalist. She knows how to gather information, and it appears she's digging around me as well. Probably looking for some hidden skeletons she can use against me. I have nothing to hide, but her behavior is apprehensive enough. I can't seem to thank the audience who guided me, and now I need your guidance once more. Should I disclose everything to my father? Will it make me a horrible person for going against the woman who's raised me, and the son my father has always believed to be his? Update number 3. After the last update, I don't know where to begin now. I've lost track of days with everything that's unfolded since. Kylie tells me that I should not be keeping anything out because I've chosen my audience to be my judge, so here I am again. I ran into Jennifer a couple days after the previous update at the local cafe. I didn't beat around the bush and showed her all the proof I had on me. At first, Jennifer was confused. It appeared that half the information I was sharing with her was news to her as well, but when her face morphed into pure fury, I wasn't surprised. She asked me if this is how I decided to repay her kindness and love. Honestly speaking, her words made me angry. So this was why she'd be so kind to me all these years, huh? I asked her as much, and she gave me a disappointed look that belittled me. Then Jennifer told me that When she'd separated from her first husband, she believed that Alex was Arthur's son, but there were some things about him that confused her, especially the way he became angry or how fickle he was when it came to committing himself to one job. It was after her marriage with my father that she discovered that Alex wasn't Arthur's son, but her first husband. By then, she decided to keep quiet and let things be because Arthur was happy, and that's what she'd wanted. She told me that she's been coaxing Arthur into helping Alex start a business because she doesn't want him to end like his own father. That's when Jennifer told me to do whatever I can because she won't back down from supporting her son. I took her words as a dare and headed straight home to tell my father everything. My father listened to everything quietly. When I was done, he called in Jennifer, who had been lingering in the kitchen. With one look at her face, he'd known that whatever said must have been true. That's when he started shaking with anger, and I became worried for his health. That instant was the first time when I thought about how everything would turn out for Dad. He'd lost the trust in the woman he's loved all his life, and would lose a son he'd been ecstatic to have. And he wasn't as strong as he'd been before, so this ordeal could very well just land a blow to his heart. My father summoned Alex and threw all the papers I'd gathered as proof in front of him. At first, Alex laughed and then commented on how diverse my talents were. Then, he told my father that everything I've gathered was true. Yes, he was in debt and had eyes on my father's money to pay them off. He'd also accepted that he'd come up with this plan when Monica had gathered the worth of the land my father owned. Alex's words did nothing but enrage my father even more. When I tried to intervene, Alex literally punched me. My father shouted at him and Jennifer to get out of the house and get out of his life absolutely completely. Well, he told them that he wasn't going to give him a penny from his inheritance, and he'd been contacting his lawyer to have him disinherited. Alex didn't even protest. Instead, he got up and stormed out of the house. Jennifer starts to ugly cry at this point, and I just stood there watching the aftermath of my hunt. Once we'd sat down in the living room and shared jokes and experiences, now there was nothing left. This is where I am now. Living with my father because he's struggling against stress and other health issues. I can't leave him alone, even if it takes twice the time to go to work and then return. Kylie drops by often, but her work has her always just moving. The house is silent now, void of Jennifer's laughter and humming whenever she sat down by the window and knit socks for us. I don't hear my father's commentary on football matches, nor his talking to his friends from the club over the phone. My father has finalized his will, and I'm the sole inheritor of everything that he owns. Oddly, I feel satisfied with the outcome, but my father's deteriorating health is what worries me. Update number 4. Well, hey guys, turns out many of you were right. There's something I've missed, and now that I've learned about it, I feel terrible for doing everything I did. The aftermath, if it is something that I might actually deserve. Jennifer has actually challenged my father's will in court. That's right. This time, instead of hiring private detectives, I went to follow Alex myself. He, Monica, and Jennifer have moved into a rundown apartment that Monica had rented for the time being. I learned that Alex still doesn't have a job, but when I found him leaving his apartment every day, early in the morning, and even returning in the evening, I suspected that he was hiding something. Oh boy, I was right. I decided to follow him, intent on gathering more information on his deceit to help me with the case against Jennifer. I followed him all the way to a local hospital. At first, I was surprised and then worried as I thought it might be Jennifer. I raced in behind Alex and asked about the patient he'd come in to visit at the counter. The receptionist asked who I was, and for the first time in a while, I found myself saying that I was Alex's brother. That's when the receptionist told me, then I must be there to meet my father. I swear the ground slipped from under my feet at her words, and I dared to breathe when she mentioned the name. Reed, Alex's birth father. When I'd hired the private detectives to gather info on Alex, they failed to mention that Reed was in the hospital. Well, countless thoughts raced through my mind as I decided to visit Nielsen's ward. To my horror, he was admitted to the Department of Neurology for the past 7 months, from around the time when Alex decided to move in with my father and request his share of the inheritance. I was perplexed. I even felt guilty now. I wanted to barge into the ward and apologize to Alex, but I could not. Before I could leave, Alex spotted me there. He flew at me in a rage and pushed me against the wall, saying some very foul words which infuriated me. We ended up having a loud argument in the hospital hallway and were asked to leave. I left right away, intent on narrating the day's events to my dad. I gathered as much as I could. Alex's father is suffering from FTD, frontotemporal dementia. The news shocked me, but what stunned me more was the fact that FTD has no cure at the moment. Wow. So getting all the money would be pointless unless Alex has another agenda. At the same time, it's also possible that the money is for Reed Nielsen's treatment. Jennifer had spread the news of what I've done in our common circles. Everywhere I go, people look at me as I'm not a human anymore. For them, I'm a heartless jerk who's robbed his brother of his share of inheritance, which was going to use to save his father's life. Of course, I've come too far just to retrace my steps, and I believe there's more to find out about Alex. Now that he knows I'm on to him, he's going to do his best just to cover his tracks. I just want to know if everything I've done this far was wrong of me, as people seem to think. Or did I do the right thing to make sure that my father's money was going to the right hands? Update number 5. Hey guys, I know it's been a while since I've been on this platform. In my last post, I read all the comments and considered all the suggestions. Your words have given me courage, and your guidance has shown me that hope. I can protect what is my own and find out the truth behind Alex and Jennifer's demand for the share of inheritance. The first and foremost step that I took was to discuss everything with Father. I came clean with him and told him how I was scared that Alex would rob both of us. I've never really liked Alex, and my father always knew that, but when he said he wasn't expecting me to do something like this, I know that I have disappointed my dad. He finds himself entangled with a lawsuit. He's dropped hints that it's been my fault. If not for my thinking that I was the rightful owner of the inheritance, none of this would have happened. Furthermore, my father's angry at me for targeting Jennifer as well. He blames me for misreading her kindness, and I don't understand what my father meant by that, because whatever she did and said was right in front of him. But I can't deny that he loves Jennifer, and it's because of his love and trust in her that he believes she was just trying to help Alex save his father. When I raised my suspicion regarding Alex's father and some hidden agenda, my father slapped me. I was too startled to speak, and a rage in my father's eyes was unfamiliar to me. That's when he told me that the doctor suggested that Alex gave his consent for the new treatment for his father, which, by the way, is still being developed, only he'd been a bit too late. My world came crashing down on me then. I was disgusted at myself, at my obsession with proving that I was the worthy son. I robbed an old man of a chance at life and caused a rift in my own family that might never be fixed. My father, well, might never forgive me for being the reason Alex's father died, but I intend to beg for his forgiveness no matter how long it'll take. At the same time, there are more people I need forgiveness from. I visited Jennifer after the news and told her how I'd misread everything. I fell to my knees and asked her to forgive me, but she turned her head away. Yeah. She told me that she loved me as her all her life, but what I've done was absolutely just tarnish that love in her heart. She called me a murderer. Someone who was blinded by greed had taken an old man's life away. I had no words to say to that, so I left. The next apology was the absolute hardest. I met Alex beside his father's grave. For once, Alex did not shout at me or show any emotion other than exhaustion and distress. I kept telling him that I was at fault for all the chaos, that I should have just trusted Alex to tell me the details when the time was right. But, well, Alex didn't say a single word to me. He ignored me and just decided to act as if I wasn't there at all. I was insulted, but I guess you could say I deserved it. Outside of the ward, Alex told me the reason he'd chosen to hide the truth. It'd been to protect our family, the second family he learned to rely on for years. Well, he told me that he never liked me because I was too smart, and I was Arthur's biological son, you know. But he'd never intended to rob me of my inheritance. He just wanted to try to save his father's life. As a son, I bet I would have done the same. The biggest blow came yesterday when I got notification from the court that my father had changed his will. I'm not included in his will anymore and won't be gaining a single penny after his death. I took the notification as my father's decision just to simply kick me out. Well, I was booted from the family because it'd been my greed that caused this mess in the first place, this gigantic mess that we find ourselves in. I'd been arrogant to think that I was entitled to get more for being Arthur's son. It turns out my father's giving my share of the inheritance to Jennifer, who's back beside my father, and the two are closer than ever before. Alex is going to marry Monica, and the four of them will live together as a family. Nothing the same is anymore, and Kylie tells me to stop blaming myself for everything because Alex was at the wrong too. He'd opted to spin a web of lies to inherit a larger share of my father's inheritance instead of telling the truth. I know that she's right. Had Alex told my father about the treatment and its costs, my father would have helped because he's that kind of man. But I guess he kept it all a secret because he didn't want my father to know that he'd been meeting his birth father behind his back. I've gone to them with an apology on my tongue so many times, but they've just turned me away. My father told me that all of us need time to heal after the chaos I've brought into our lives. What I don't understand is, why is it that they're making me feel as if I'm the bad guy when they'd been in the wrong as well? Why does it feel like I've lost more than I'd owned? I guess I'll have to live my entire life feeling like this. Lastly, I don't know how to show my gratitude to all my audience who took out the time from their busy lives to read my story. It was because of your guidance that I found courage to face my wrongs. In short, I don't know what I would have done without you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. So this story definitely took a turn for the worse. A lot of people in the comment section simply did not know whose side to take. They could all understand why the step-sibling did what he did once they realized that his father was fighting for his life. So, there weren't too many people in the comment section mad at each other, but there was some arguing going on. I would like to know, where do you guys stand on this? Do you think OP was in the right, or do you think OP was in the wrong? Drop your comments down below. Let's discuss it in the comment section. I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, the only way I ask you to support me is very simple. Just hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for that support. I deeply appreciate it, guys. If you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I animate stories every single day. Stop on by tomorrow, see what we're up to. I hope you guys have a great one, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.